I interviewed Kathleen Collins, a professor of art history and sociology at Spokane Tribal College in Spokane, Washington. The first question I asked Kathleen was, what do you see as the role of visual arts in our mass meditated world, and particularly in your profession? Her reply was, visual arts, in my opinion, have an integral role in modern society and the world in general. In this global community we have created, especially in the last 20 years, images have become our way of communicating with the rest of the world. Iconography has become so very important in the way we do this that we have become dependent upon in many ways. From business marketing to politics, the visual arts are used in our everyday lives to the point where we as a society no longer actively realize it. From the stop sign to the Nike swoosh, we identify symbols more readily than we do abstract concepts. As an art history and sociology professor, the role of visual arts is extremely important. It is difficult to teach about the history of art without showing examples of the styles, techniques, periods, etc. that are being discussed. For instance, how do you describe an archaic smile without showing an example of it? In sociology, there are many cultures and countercultures that define themselves via various physical attributes, may it be clothing, body modification, etc., that cannot be adequately conceptualized without the use of visual aids. The second question I asked Kathleen was, with new communications and media technologies, imagery is almost instantly available. Do you believe that this is having a positive or negative influence on the industry? And she replied, this is a difficult question to answer because I have no solid opinion on one side or the other. I believe it has both a positive and negative influence on the industry as a whole. Positively, the instant gratification of the internet as a tool for exposure can be a wonderful thing. It allows artists to display their talents and artworks in free form, giving them a chance to be viewed by millions of people around the world. With websites like Facebook, Tumblr, and DeviantArt, one can network freely and potentially gain a following relatively easily. On the other side of the coin, however, with the instant access comes the negative. Forget the intellectual property battles that have been prevalent since the turn of the 21st century. What concerns me with modern technological advancements is literally anyone can be an artist in this day and age. What once took a lifetime worth of studying to achieve can now be done within a few hours of working on Photoshop. It begs the question, does this and will this allow generations of younger people to value art less? I sincerely hope not. My hope is that this somehow inspires people, especially our youth, to see art as it is, ever evolving and ever flowing. What popular images do you see that are frequently rechanneled throughout the entertainment industry? Kathleen replied, in the midterm I gave to my introduction to art history students, we discussed at great length the perpetuation of the fertility icon. We continue to redefine our notion of beauty and fertility, which aren't always mutually exclusive, especially in modern American society. However, the need for women to exude their sexuality, whether it be real or simply perceived, is something that has been addressed throughout the scope of art history. In today's entertainment industry, most of the women we are exposed to look nothing like the Venus of Willendorf. We still worship these visions of beauty and implied fertility. Of course, we do have the exceptions, with actors such as Melissa McCarthy, who played in Bridesmaids and Mike and Molly, Queen Latifah, who played in Chicago, Octavia Spencer, The Help, and Amber Riley, Glee. We're seeing the ancient vision of beauty and fertility being realized once again. Are there particular images that this industry has popularized and or created? Kathleen replied, of course there are. If you look at the end phases of hyper-skinny models and the imitated physique that seemed to saturate the modeling scene in the 1990s, that was something that seemed to be created by the industry and certainly popularized by it, helping to further warp the ideal body type in popular culture for decades now. Who is one of your favorite visual artists and or what is your favorite style of visual art? Kathleen said, asking those questions is akin to asking me to pick a favorite child. However, I do have a small list of favorites. I enjoy Vincent van Gogh, Auguste Rodin, Toulouse-Lautrec, Mark Rothko, and Franz Marc's artworks very much. With the exception of Rodin, all these artists work primarily in paints. I'm also very fond of the classical age. Greek and Roman, as well as the Hiberno-Saxon arts of the early medieval period. I asked Kathleen was, how has your knowledge of famous artworks influenced your creative process? Kathleen replied, I think the learning of famous artists' own creative process have inspired my personal creative processes. For instance, learning about the various post-World War II expressionists, especially in Germany, and how some would listen to jazz melodies while they painted. Allowing the music to influence their composition, color, etc. caused me to consider incorporating music into my creative process. Indeed, from writing term papers to writing creatively, I still listen to music while I work on written compositions. More often than not, I will create a soundtrack for the mood I want to convey in my writing, to help maintain the emotional intensity. I think everyone's creative process is deeply personal and is most difficult to convey into words. I definitely learned that from my numerous art history courses in college.